Usually people will tend to straggle in.
Oh, okay.
So, and sometimes with these Hangouts, I was just doing my list. We have people from 11 states and 8 different countries in the class. So,
oh my God.
Some people are asleep right now, which is okay. That's why I record them and post them, because I really sort of just have to pick a time that's best for everybody. So let's see, Dorothy, you're in Rochester, right? Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I can barely hear you though.
How's that?
You still sound real distant. If you check on the little gear on the top of the Hangout, you can pick your microphone source, and it may be set to something else.
Hey, Eli.
So Dorothy, you're in Rochester? Oh, now I lost your microphone. You don't seem muted. Where'd your microphone go, Dorothy?
No, what is it? What is it?
I'm not hearing anyone. Hi, Scott. Can I hear you?
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good. Okay, I can hear Scott. Hi.
I hear
Just working out microphone issues. Now, who is this that is listed as just Clay?
That's me.
I know, but what's your name? Huh?
That is my name.
Who do I have you brought? Who do I have you listed under?
Barclay?
No, but I mean, what's your legal name? You're breaking up. I'm having a heck of a time hearing you.
I don't know what's. I'm looking at my settings. I can't see it.
I can hear you, but you're really quiet and you're scratchy.
Oh, that was probably me scratching.
Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like it's recording off like a microphone on your computer or something like that. Sorry, the first class is always working out the technical glitches. Let's see. We've got Vered. Or is it Vereed? Well, you're muted at the moment. Joining in.
Hi.
You work with
Say again?
I say hi.
Hi. I can hear you. I can't see you.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't have to see you if you don't want us to. There you are.
For a while.
So is it Vereed or Vered?
Vered.
Vered. Okay. Don't expect me to get the accent.
Yeah, don't worry.
Who's sanding?
Me, sorry.
Who's trying to get away with studio work? You think you get away with that in class? No. I've had those students doing that, bringing in pieces, trying to graffito in the back of a lecture.
Okay.
You think it's all just the kids laughing at their laps when they're secretly texting their friends in class, but no. Ceramics kids, they're all like, I'm going to do some sanding. And we've got Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
Hi.
Oh, great. You sound good. So is your registration information correct, Ruth?
In terms of what, sorry?
Are you in
Which bit
Ukraine?
of it? Sorry?
Are you in Ukraine?
No, I'm not in the Ukraine. I'm in the UK.
No, the registrar seriously said Ukraine. Hold, I am going to pull it up right now. That's right, because we were emailing last week, weren't we? And
Yeah.
you told me you were in the UK. Hold, I'm seriously going to pull this up, and I will even screenshot it, and then I'm going to shame the registrar, or I'm going to prove myself to be
Is
crazy.
this Laura Glove? Because I spoke to her, I emailed her,
Yeah.
so she had a chance to ask me herself.
Hold on, hold on. Yeah, that probably is who it was. Okay, wait. I'm going to log in. Here's my faculty page. Let's see. We're Allen term. Submit. Detail class list. Ukraine. Let's see. Hold on. Wait. I want to prove I'm not crazy. Ruth. Let's see. There you are. Okay. Wait. Here. I'm gonna screen share it. Make sure my screen share is working. Okay. Can everybody see this web page?
No.
No. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Present to everyone. Ukraine. I should have actually read and realized that there's no Norfolk in the Ukraine. Hold on. Eli, come here. Here, you want to say hi? Hold on. I've got my 4-year-old here. Eli, you want to say hi to everybody? Oh. Stop sharing. Just to embarrass him. This is my 4-year-old Eli.
Love
Dressed
the
up as
outfit, Eli.
yeah. They say they love the outfit. Dressed up as our Christmas elf, and this is my baby, my wife, my babe and my baby. My wife Rose, and this is Ezra. He's 11 weeks old, so.
Ah.
And it's all these people's bedtimes because Dada doesn't have a private office. Mwah. Okay, go to bed. Love you.
I love you.
Okay, love you too, Munchie. 4-year-old's come in a wave of chaos. So I should have read the details more closely. Ukraine. And there is a U and a K there. Okay, hold on, wait. I'm even going to change this. Well, they are Alfred folks. They're, we're not very geographically knowledgeable when you live out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, well, this may be the crew that we have, so we'll start going. As I've mentioned, actually, we have a class of 24, so it's a huge class. People come, they go. Obviously, it's late for Ruth. Let's see, it's got to be 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's pretty noble of you to show up. I appreciate that. But we've got where's my list? My list for this term, for just in the Glaze class, because I have the Clay class as well, we've got people from Canada, Spain, Ukraine, Korea, Turkey, Venezuela, and the Dominican Republic. So it's lots of people from lots of different time zones. So, it gets complicated. And it's okay if you can't make it to this hangout, that this is really a great opportunity for you guys to meet each other, to ask questions, all that kind of thing, and to ask me questions. If you've got them, I'm sure you don't, because I answer everything you need in the video and in the class content. So I'm just going to leave and let you guys chat. Okay?
No.
No? But in general, so this is our opportunity to talk about specifically questions that you have from the class, but also, maybe something about your studio or problems that you're solving, or problems that you're dealing with and are trying to solve, or something that's always been nagging at you. The only thing I would say is don't get offended if I say that the answer is hold on, wait a little bit, because we get to pretty much everything through the entirety of the course. So we will get there eventually. But, so do we want to do introductions? Should we go from Clay? Is your mic working? Fingers?
What does it sound like? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It's still super quiet. Can everybody else hear him?
Barely.
Really?
Okay, if if you scream, we'll listen really intently.
Let me look at the settings again. This is a borrowed headset, so I can't speak with quality.
And I'm going to take notes, so don't think I'm not listening. I'm just looking down at my notes.
What does that sound like?
Still about the same, but I think if we're all quiet and listen closely, we can hear you.
What is that?
Nah, that made it a little worse, actually.
Go back to that. Yeah, I think this is as good as it's going to get.
Actually, right there is the best I've heard so far.
That was good.
All right. Well, my name's Clay. I've been a potter since 1980, and I'm taking this class to sort of unlearn bad habits and kind of knit some things together. I did glaze formulation as a graduate student, basically annotating Daniel Rhodes, clay and glazes, and stoneware and porcelain. So there's some gaps probably, and so that's my interest, and I'd like to be able to teach this effectively. So.
And what do you see as your bad habits?
They're just if you think of the literature since 1980 or so, there are all kinds of things that have been published, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. John Hesselberth is something I wanted to ask you about. Cone 6, and maybe some cavalier habits, doing things that aren't necessarily 100% sound.
Cavalier, like just being ambitious without verifying.
Yeah, stick it in the fire and see what it does. Empirical.
Right.
So that's it. I'd like to have, if I'm going to teach, I want to make sure that my practice is sound.
Whoa. Sorry, the 3-year-old's dropping boxes.
After a number of years, you get sloppy, I guess.
It's true. That we pick up a lot of bad habits. Even me, I have bad habits too. And one of the big problems why I really do this is because there is so much myth out there. Right. There is so much information that was passed down of I heard from a guy who heard from a lady who heard from her teacher who heard from a wise old potter that this is the way it goes. And I find that generally, it's not really true, and that there are really good, really sound explanations for them. And I'll certainly get you there. To make the problem worse, you're sort of talking that you've been going since 80, and so like you are right in the hot zone of Cone 6, right? That's really Cone 6 emerged in the early 70s, and now becomes virtually this predominant thing. And
right.
I don't have a problem with Cone 6, as you folks will learn and probably have started to learn through the videos that have gone through. I have an opinion about just about everything. I try to be pretty nice about it, and the one thing I will say is that I am inclusive about everything as long as you're willing to learn. When I find people that say no, this is the way it is and that's the way it's going to be, then I get a little defensive. But that with cones. Sorry, the 4-year-old and mom are fighting, and I'm sure you guys can hear all of that. Oh, bath time. Sorry. Like I said, I don't have a private office. And so in Cone 6, it became something that it makes me uncomfortable because a lot of changes were made to chemistry without talking to a lot of chemists. Mm-hmm. And so we will get into it. By the time we get to the end of the class, you will feel very comfortable with Cone 6. I might not make you happy, about some of the things you may have historically been doing, and not make you unhappy and guilt, but you might start to look at your recipes and go, I've got a lot of work to do now. Which is a common reaction to people taking my class, of them sort of looking at what they've been doing and going, oh God. And I am a rabble rouser in that I don't really care about what people say of the way it should work, as I think I say in the introduction, of prove it to me. I have my evidence. I'm going to show you guys my evidence and my proof, and if you've got evidence that contradicts with proof, show it to me, but no one ever does. I mean, I'm literally, I won't slander a specific person, but I am standing actually at my desk before class started with a very, very popular, fairly new Cone 6 Glaze book, and I'm literally just looking at the formulas because I just got myself a copy of it, and I am 8 formulas in, and 4 of them I wouldn't go anywhere near. And it lists having 400 formulas. So I'm a little bit opinionated, but we'll get to that.
That didn't happen to be related to a Clay Buddies discussion last night, did it? Say
again? Which Clay Buddies discussion?
Clay Buddies discussion.
Oh!
On Facebook?
No. I'm trying to remember what discussions we're having. Last night I was teaching the Glaze class, so I was mostly off. Oh, are you talking about the short discussion?
Yes.
No. That discussion, how much can I say? That discussion was actually a plant by Stacy. So if you guys don't know, there's a Facebook group called Clay Buddies, which seems to have come up as sort of the central ceramics discussion out there. For many years, there was a message board called Clay Art, which still has its fan base, but it seems like most people are over on Clay Buddies now. One of the moderators is a woman named Stacy Morgan, who I don't want to go so far as to say she's an acolyte, but she's someone who likes to know what I have to say on things. And she actually planted that question so I would come in and answer it and prove someone else wrong.
I just thought it was interesting.
What did you think about it?
It was just interesting to have the two of you conversing back and forth. It's still a bit of a novelty to me, I guess, to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's online is, I mean, obviously we're here online. It's such an interesting trap because you have to know who to listen to. I mean, the fact is that you guys are having faith to sit here and listen to me. And, I can show you my bona fides, and you'll see it all in the class. I lay it all out there, and, I have the backing of Alfred, which is great. That sort of gives me that reputation behind it, but that you don't know who to trust. There are a lot of people that are very excited about ceramics on Clay Buddies, and that's awesome, but there's a ton of bad information.
Yes.
There's more bad information than there is good. And, I don't ever mean to make it personal with anybody. Everyone is absolutely doing their best with the experience that they've got. But sometimes in their excitement to share, they're sharing things that are not necessarily beneficial.
Yeah. Well, you want to shake some of them.
Yeah. And you want to shake some of the experts, too.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. I'll try to keep my mouth shut. Anyway, before I dig a bigger hole. Hi, Kiara.
Hi, Matt.
Welcome.
I couldn't get my ear.
Okay. Well, I don't hear any feedback yet, but if we do, I might mute you. But you sound okay for now.
Okay, great.
We're just doing introductions. We're about to go to Dorothy. Dorothy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, just fine.
Perfect. I am in Rochester, New York. I have been doing pottery for about 3 years now, so I am brand new. I have never made a glaze in my life. It's all been community glazes. So this is just starting out and trying to figure out where I'm going to go.
Okay, excellent. Well, I hope, I like to believe that I have designed this class for people like yourself with no experience. Okay? Now, I don't do a lot of here's how you batch a glaze and here's how you do this because it's more about the background and learning about what's actually going on in the glaze. So I hope that part's okay. You've got Kelly there with you, though?
Yes, I do. I was going to say I'm fine here.
Use
Okay.
Kelly on that end. Kelly is a former grad student of mine who's great. I was saying to Dorothy, my little photo on my Google Plus account is actually it's a pot of Kelly's with a glaze that the two of us designed together at Cone 6. That's a Cone 6 matte glaze that I'm very proud of. So that's great. So and actually, let me know as a pure beginner how you feel about things as we go along, because you know that today's lecture, if you've gotten through it, is really, you know, it's an introduction. It's definitely throwing you in feet first, but hopefully as we go along, everything sort of becomes clear as we continue. Oh, I missed that last comment.
I said that sounds good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the class today was great.
Good, good. It didn't leave you hanging or anything?
Not at all.
Okay. Starting next Monday, okay, we're going to start to get into stuff like chemistry, which is probably going to make you just uncomfortable as it's going to make everybody else.
Okay.
Okay? You know, it's a nasty subject, but it's something we have to learn, and we literally start with the baby steps going through, and from there you'll understand a glaze. And by the end, I really truly believe, even as a brand new person, you are going to know more than anybody up there except for Kelly. So are you at Genesee Pottery?
I am.
Okay, so maybe the Dutt, Josh Duttinger, he might know a little bit. Josh and I were in undergrad together.
I'll let him know I'm talking to you.
Okay, we'll keep going down the list so we're not here all night. Kiara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chiara. I've always done pottery since I'm in high school. I'm pretty much a self-taught potter, though I apprentice with people in Venezuela, which is where I'm from, and New Haven, Connecticut, which is where I am now. I have always worked at Cone 6, and I was told it was the greatest thing, so your lecture today was pretty upsetting. I have 15 years telling my customers that everything is fine in the dishwasher, so I'm freaking out. You have a lot of preview with me because this is how we met. I got a video about that glaze.
Mm-hmm.
The lecture today talked about artists not being interested in chemistry. I love the subject. I just couldn't get to school in Venezuela, so this is a moment I've been waiting for many, many years, and I'm really excited to dive into it.
Excellent. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about what you're telling customers. And I don't know if you heard everything I was saying to Clay. Don't worry about how slanderous I may or may not be of Cone 6.
Mm-hmm.
I love Cone 6.
We do. Mm-hmm.
I think that there is amazing opportunity in Cone 6.
Okay.
I just last week submitted my latest research for NCCA 2016, where I talk about glaze durability, how well glazes stand up as far as food safety and quality. And you can make glazes at Cone 6, and you can make glazes at Cone 04 that are even stronger than really good Cone 10 glazes.
I see. You're just not building mullite, so you have to trust your glaze, or what?
Well, yeah, you're not building mullite. That there's a lot of things that people do wrong with Cone 6, but it can all be corrected. The answers are there. The problem is most of the people don't know why things work or why they don't work, and the pure cynic in me says, you know, if you're buying commercial clay, that the clay companies don't care about you and are selling you lies. But that's a whole other subject for another time. I have a conspiracy theory about that.
I have to tell you who I buy clay from, of course.
Who do you buy clay from? Well, let's see. You're in Connecticut. You're probably either Sheffield or Ceramic Supply, so Standard or Sheffield.
Yeah, sure.
Sheffield?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, okay. It's fine. They're all the same. You know, it's the clay ceramics people. Again, I don't mean to grossly generalize, but we are people of faith. we believe what others tell us, and I think that that's wonderful about us. Unfortunately, the companies that they don't really have any scruples because all they're interested in doing is selling product. And so we have faith that they're doing things right, but they don't do things right, or they don't know they're doing things right or doing things wrong. I know I sound very slanderous and very snotty and like I've got my nose in the air, but I'll teach you the way. I just get skeptical, going back to talking about Clay Buddies, this Facebook group. You see a lot of people on there that are showing commercial glazes and sort of saying, well, what's wrong with this? Well, what's wrong with it is that it's a commercial glaze. Because this is a big topic for later, but when we talk about safety, food safety, right? There are zero regulations. Okay, as long as a glaze does not have lead or cadmium in it, you don't even have to test it for food safety in the United States. Those are the only materials that are actually regulated in this country. So they can, as long as that glaze doesn't have lead or cadmium, they can just say food safe, non-toxic, and that's the end of the discussion. And so they can do things where they're using matte glazes that aren't real matte glazes, which we'll get into extensively. And they can do all this crazy stuff. And the best thing that you can do is to be here now and to learn about your glazes and to learn how to do things productively. Okay?
Okay.
So don't take that concerned look off your face.
I tell you, I was destroyed after I finished listening to the.
I don't want to destroy you.
Well, I'm really committed. I'm dreaming of having like a solid, beautiful ceramic brand, and I need to know that what I'm giving people is the pure gold I want to give them. So I was pretty surprised.
You will.
I'm ready to. Yeah.
That is why I'm here.
Yeah,
okay?
Great.
That is my pure goal. I want you guys to be confident in what you do.
Yeah.
And I want you to be competent in what you do. Okay? And that's it. And I promise I will get you there. Promise. You may think I'm crazy. You may think I'm like, I don't know, off my rocker, but I promise I will get you there. Believe me? Okay. Yeah, I think Dorothy, I'm going to mute you because we're getting a lot of feedback on your microphone. I think it's Dorothy. So just click text if you want to say something, and I'll click you back on. Okay, Ruth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Ruth. I'm in the UK, just for clarity. Like you, I have a copy of Daniel Rhodes, and I read it, and I thought, I don't think I really get what he's trying to tell me here. So I read it a few more times, and I spent some time working on it, and then I kind of gave up. I'm not a professional potter. I'm a hobby potter. My job is accountancy, so you'd think I'd get the numbers to work out right, but I blooming can't. We didn't do chemistry as a subject particularly in high school or further education. I've done a number of quite a bit of work on testing glazes and such in the past, but when I look back, say in the last year, I've done hardly any, which means it's kind of time for me to kickstart that again and get more precise about what I'm doing and why and how to improve things and such like. I've got a kiln that is elderly and would have a heart attack if I told it to do any more than cone 6, and I had been beginning to think it was time to get a new one, but I think my partner might have a heart attack if I tell him that you say I have to get one that can go to cone 10.
Get a small one. One pot at a time.
Yeah, but he wants me to do garden pots. So.
Oh. Well, garden pots you do at 04 anyway.
Well, yeah, but I need something I do everything. So yeah, it'll be my test kiln for the lab work.
Mm-hmm.
And a bloke I know, it's the way it goes in Norfolk, gave me a bucket of glaze that he mixed up wrong a while ago that goes to cone 10. So not cone 10, cone 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be doing lab work on that formula. I kind of added some things and it works fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what that does normally.
You have the
But,
formula?
yeah. He told me what he'd done with it, and he
Mm-hmm.
told me what he'd intended to do with it. So I managed to correct it. So it does work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. Now, the only challenge you and I are going to have is I might not know all of the materials you have available to you.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Okay? Because the amazing thing about chemistry is that it's universal.
Mm.
Okay? You can go to the UK. You can go back to Venezuela. I've gone to Peru, all over. Even on the East Coast versus the West Coast of the U.S., you get different materials. The chemistry always works. Okay, so we may need to figure out what materials you have versus what you don't have in the long term, and maybe get some background information on those. But that's the only minor challenge, and it's like we can fix that in 30 minutes of work.
Yeah.
No, that's great, absolutely. And again, just like with Dorothy, don't worry about the chemistry. Don't fret about the temperature. We'll certainly get you there and up to speed really quick. And we can have you working at Cone 6. We can have you working at Cone 2 if you want. Have you working at Cone 03 if you really want. Again, it all depends on what you want to do in the studio.
Yeah. Well, this guy was trying to get me doing once firing.
Why?
So, well, he's very enthusiastic about it, and when he talked to me, I could just see how it made sense. The whole keeping the flow of the work from the wheel to drying it, to adding the glaze, to putting it in the kiln, to bang, it's done. And then you don't have, particularly when you've got a biggish kiln like mine, you don't have like a couple of shelves worth of wear that's been bisqued, and then you're coming back to it after a period of time to go, oh no, what was I going to glaze that as?
Right.
It's a style over here.
It's just a once fire as a style?
It's because you can do it, you can do different things with it. You get more into slips and such like as decor. So it's about the underglazes and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's certainly
my horizons.
There is a massive history of that. It's not like it's some giant mystery that has never been dealt with. It really depends on, like you said. There are pragmatic reasons to it, but there's also questions about how it affects your process, because the reality of it is that once fire creates a whole other collection of technical issues. A lot of the things that we talk about, sort of, or a lot of the technical problems you double down with on once fire. And once fire can work remarkably well if done right. But if it's not, it can just make headache after headache after headache. In certain industries, my wife works in the tile industry, and with them they'll once fire, but they have to do it in a very precise manner, in that their glazes absolutely are designed not to melt until the body has gone through certain processes. Because if they melt the glaze and the body's not done, then you've got bubbles and gases and all sorts of stuff getting into your glaze that can cause problems. So again, it really depends on how you want to do it. Totally possible, just depends on your studio, which is always, as with everybody, it depends on what you want to do. Right?
Yeah. It's only one tool in the box. I would never want to use it for everything.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I will give you as many tools as you want. So many tools you won't know what to do with yourself.
Cool.
All right. Scott?
Hi, I too am in Connecticut. I started pottery about 8 years ago. Um, the co-op I belong to, I started classes there, and after a couple of years, you can be invited to join as a key member. You get a key to the building, so we have 24-hour access. As a key member, you're also responsible for making up the student places. We are given the opportunity, if we want to make up our own, we have key member places that are separate from the student places. And so we can play with them and experiment and do some things. And a lot of what you talked about in the lecture today, it was just, I found it so interesting because it's a lot of the frustration I go through. People will say things are food safe, or they talk about this and they talk about that. We've had some glazes that when I first started in the co-op, they were fine. And for some odd reason over the years, things have changed a little bit and they've started crazing on certain clay bodies. Don't know why. I've started reading some books. I've read a couple of books by a couple different authors. And we have one member that is actually pretty good with the science. Mm-hmm. But he's not very available. He comes in, he's been a production potter in the past, so he'll come in and he'll work for 2 weeks and he'll throw a couple hundred pots, and then you won't see him the rest of the year.
Right.
And so I've sat down with him and we've gone through the Unity formula, all that kind of stuff, and he's showed me, but it's been very cursory. I've wanted to do like a weekend workshop or something, but I've also felt like I wasn't going to get enough from that. You were going to do the one up in Troy, and I was about ready to sign up when she canceled it.
That one would have been tough because with the 2 days that was lined up for, it's impossible to get through Unity in that period of time.
That's when I saw this posted. I got really excited, and I looked at it, and we emailed back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about this. I think it sounds like it's about everything I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And
so to I don't think it's come up particularly in the lecture so far. So what Scott is talking about and what we'll really get deep into is this form of chemistry called the Unity molecular formula, which is a way of analyzing the chemistry of glazes. And it is super looked down upon by the ceramics community. And the reason why it's looked down upon is because people don't understand it. Okay? I was in a conversation with John Britt, who's a fairly well-known technical guy, 2 days ago. And he sort of made this comment where he brushed off the UMF, and honestly it became clear that he didn't understand the full spectrum of the scope of what we can do with it, of where the power lies in understanding the chemistry. Because, as I say, I don't want to be dismissive of the act of discovery in ceramics, but magic's not a thing. It's all chemistry. It's all controllable. You can make it so that you get surprises, and that that you can make things that are exciting, but it's that thing of when I hit my microphone. I always say that magicians are the most amazing skeptics. Okay, because Harry Houdini was out there proving that ghosts don't exist, and Penn and Teller and the amazing Randy. There are these people that their entire job is to lie to you, but to make you believe that they are telling you the absolute truth. And so to actually know the truth and then make it look like magic, that's what you can do by understanding glaze chemistry. And so I think this will be exceptionally valuable for you, Scott. So you're going to have a lot of fun.
I've also subscribed to the Tony Hansen's Digital Fire,
mm-hmm.
And been using that, and I put all of our class glazes on that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see like the silica-alumina ratio, and he has a coefficient of expansion in there that's one I don't really understand.
Yeah. That's because it's not a real thing.
Okay.
So actually, what I will say, nothing against. So I don't know if everybody here knows Tony Hansen's Digital Fire. It's a website for collecting and cataloging glazes. It's fine, except that you have to pay for it. And actually, what I like more is this website called Glaze.com. I'm going to post it over here on the chat. If you guys can see the chat. If you click the box that's on your left, that's a blue box with a white outline. I just posted the link over there. Glaze is the same thing, except it's free. And actually, the guy who created this website was going to join us, but he lives in China, and he's got to travel this holiday. But it's a very interesting website where you can put in a recipe. Here, I can do a screen share. So this is Glazy. So you can click on a formula or enter your own formula. You get a picture. Actually, I don't want to do that one. We'll just pick 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it comes with a picture. Then you've got the formula, the formula here, and as you come down, it has this whole unity molecular formula, which we'll get into deep. Don't worry about it. It's got that here, and then it actually plots the unity molecular formula, which will become a huge deal with what we're talking about. And he's actually making some changes right now on Glazy that I've been working with him on. Let me see if I can find it. Got a lot of emails here. Where he has started implementing some different ways of looking. Here we go. So he's now starting to change his maps based on some conversations he and I have been having that really help you predict what a glaze is going to do, which is what is so powerful about the UMF, is that by just looking at the chemistry, you can know what a glaze is going to do. You can know if it's going to be glossy or matte. You can know if it's going to be food safe. You can know what temperature it's going to fire at. When you get really advanced, you can know what colors are going to be made specifically. So we'll get deep into all this. This is just sort of a first pass, but this is the one I've just started coming to. And I just like it because it's free. That's glazy.org. Very, very fun. And yeah, the guy who runs it, Derek, actually lives in Jingdezhen, China, but he's an American. And it's a beautiful little website. But yeah, so Tony, yeah. Stuff like the coefficient of thermal expansion, when I say it's not a thing, it is a real thing. And coefficient of thermal expansion is a number that you'll often find referenced with glazes where it will say this glaze has an expansion of X or Y or whatever. And it's just based on this notion of all materials expand and contract with heat. Okay? And the coefficient of thermal expansion is just basically the numerical representation of how much that material expands or contracts with heat. And it's actually in meters per degree is the unit it's actually represented in. Here's the thing about the coefficient of thermal expansion for glazes. It's completely made up. The number for glazes is not real, and what I mean by that is you need to actually test a material to know its thermal expansion. Because when I give you a formula, we're looking at the raw materials. But the coefficient of thermal expansion actually depends on what those materials become in the kiln. And you have to test that. You can't predict it. And why you can't predict it is because of a material like silica, which is our base glass former. Okay? Silica, pure silica, has an exceptionally high thermal expansion. Okay, its numerical value is 22. We'll go into all the subtleties right now. But when you actually dissolve silica in a glass, the thermal expansion actually has the opposite effect. It goes down. And so you can't make that calculation. You can't say my silica goes down and not goes up, which is actually what they do in the math. So when you see a thermal expansion on a glaze, what they're doing is they're taking all those raw materials and they're averaging their thermal expansion. But it doesn't make any sense, because if you take the average of thermal expansion of silica, it says your expansion is going to go up. But what actually happens in the fired material is that it goes down, and that number becomes irrelevant. So it's one of those numbers that people love because it gives them a feeling of comfort, but it actually means next to nothing. I will basically never reference it. We'll talk about more because it does exist. It is an absolute real thing. We do have to learn how to deal with it, and actually the Unity molecular formula tells us how to deal with it. We just have to learn how to read it. It's like a new language. So yeah, there's a lot of great information like that we will get through. Hold on.
It's hard.
It's hard, but I've never had anyone run away from my class screaming. Crying, maybe. No, not to toot my own horn, but people love my class because I make these things exceptionally understandable, and these are gigantic subjects that people spend many, many years not understanding. And in 5 weeks, you are going to be so comfortable with it, you won't believe it. I mean, I've had students leave my class and go out and get glaze jobs just from this class because they're so comfortable with what they can do with glazes. No joke. Okay, Red.
Hi. So
Hi.
I'm from California. So I'm practicing. I have a studio at home. I'm doing from 6, from 04, and also in your video I was almost crying. I don't want to do content at home. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. You're breaking up a little bit. You sound a little bit digital.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not a science person. I hope I will understand. And yeah, I want to really, I was looking to work more in earthenware now, but after your video, I don't know what I will decide. Really, I want to use less electricity in my home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you said it was all functional?
Yeah, I'm glazing. I do sculpture, but I don't glaze them. So for my functional wear, I need really, really reliable glaze. And if it will be Cone 1, I will be so happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, the question becomes, so I definitely hear about lowering your energy usage.
Yeah.
The thing is that actually you don't save that much energy by changing temperatures. So and it's that classic thing. It's like you hear about you had your friends who were smokers, and they would say, oh well, when I quit smoking, I'm gonna have all this money in my pocket. And so it's sort of, if I lower my temperature, I'm gonna have all these energy savings that I can reflect. And it doesn't really work that way because, it first got me when I graduated from college and I went and had my first show in my own studio. And I fired my kiln, and I was only working at Cone 04, but I fired my kiln literally every day for a month. And I got my electric bill, and it cost me $15. Because we actually don't use that much electricity. It just depends on how you use it and what you want to do with it. You can make 04 pots. You just have to be careful about them. Okay? It presents another complication. Now, as I said, the glazes, as far as toxicity or concerns about durability, that I can totally knock out. In fact, this is the worst thing about test tiles. I literally have a desk full of 200 test tiles in front of me. And this just looks like a white block to all of you. But this is something that I'm exceptionally excited about because this is a real, food-safe, honest-to-goodness matte glaze at Cone 04. Okay? This is something that shouldn't exist, but does because you can understand the chemistry and the durability and all of these types of things. And it's like again, I wish I could give it to you and put it out there. My camera's not that good. But it's buttery, it's soft, it's got nice crystals in it. Oh, out of focus. You know, that you can do wonderful, wonderful things at any temperature. Okay? So just decide what temperature you want. Now, if you want to make pots at 04, fine. You know, it almost becomes more of a question about the clay at that point and how you're going to protect the clay. So you need to glaze 100% of the surface. You can't leave a foot ring, okay? Because the foot ring will then absorb water, and that will lead to cracking, or that will lead to sweating or bacteria growth or any of those types of things. So it just becomes a question of what you want to do and how you want to do it. You know, that great limitation is not even so much about the energy usage. You know, just like Ruth was saying, of getting a kiln that'll go to cone 10 is.
Can I?
Mhm.
Can I make a point?
Sure.
Energy prices are a bit different globally.
That's true.
Because I know firing my kiln costs at least £6 or £7 sterling per firing.
To 6.
£6 or £7 sterling per firing.
To cone 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite a bit different to what you get charged.
Well, I mean, we are definitely Americans. We are energy hogs. We're famous for that, for having incredibly low fuel prices and then complaining about them. It's true, but I mean, you know, £6 or £7. I mean, at the current exchange rates, that's
It's $1.50
10
as of today.
Is $1.50? Okay, so we're at you know, $9 a firing.
You'd notice that.
Oh, it's the same. We pay the same. I pay like $12 to corn.
Yeah.
6.
California definitely has higher prices. But at the end of the day, that those aren't massive prices when you consider the amount of work that's going into that kiln and the turnaround on it, that actually those are still fairly reasonable prices. And you know, like I said, I was firing at cone 04, and that was 20 years ago. But that you know, that these things are relatively cheap, and so the difference between cone 6 and cone 10, you don't actually see that great of an energy difference. But what you do see is a lot of wear on your kiln.
Right.
Okay. A lot of our kilns are massively underbuilt. And, you know, one of those things I will talk smack about is the classic barrel kiln, but I've got 3 of them, okay? Don't think I'm, like, you know, better than that. I fully acknowledge that everything is wrong with them, but they work mostly. They're definitely cheap for kilns, but we have to learn how to work with them, how to make glazes that work with them, and to make everything work economically, because this is, you know, this is a dangerous hobby for your bank account, you know, or professionally, you know, then when really every penny counts, absolutely. But the same way that it counts to get the most out of your firing, and sometimes maybe the option is to fire to a hotter temperature for reasons X, Y, and Z. But it really depends on what you want to do, and we'll get into all that. You look skeptical, Vered.
No, I'm okay.
You're okay.
I just start to work with a red low fire clay, so I really like the color, the finish of the red clay. But I did a lot of code 6 stuff, so I'm just playing now.
Right. It depends what you want. If it's about the color, you know, that you can do dark clays at cone 6, you know, or, you know, that you can make pots at 04 better. You know, you can glaze them very effectively. Don't have to worry about food safety. And there are a lot of potters out there who are making pots at 04. You know, that I don't know if you know who Ayumi Horie is, but she and I go back. We actually come from the same neighborhood in Maine. Talk about a small world. She makes wonderful pots at cone 04. I tell her not to do it every 3 months when she comes to me with a technical problem. But, you know, it's what her passion is. Fine. I am never going to be one that steps in the way of anyone's passion. What I want to do is help you make the best thing you can. You know? So I have my opinions. You don't have to listen to my opinions. You just have to listen to my facts. You know, what is it that they say about politics, that sometimes they become very easily confused, facts and opinions? So, does anyone have any questions? I know that today's lecture was pretty cursory, but do you guys have any questions about content so far?
About content?
Yeah, things that I talked about in class.
I mean, my main question was, should I just stop doing Cone 6? But you already answered that.
Yeah.
Other than that is...
No. Don't stop doing Cone 6. What I would encourage you to do, so you're doing full-time production pots.
I am, yeah.
The thing that I would encourage you to do is to stay and to learn and to process, and then in the long term, a question does come down to, you know, where your priorities lie. If you think that Cone 6 is where it needs to go, stick with Cone 6. But you then have to reprioritize. If you're going to stay at Cone 6, what I would massively encourage you to do is to stop buying commercial clay and to make your own clay, to figure out a way to do that. Because my greatest problem with Cone 6 isn't the glaze. Well, if you're making your own, but you know, this will come up a lot in class. Again, that the clay companies do not have your interest at heart.
Yeah.
The question that Clay was asking about was on Clay Buddies yesterday. This question came up about Stacy, one of the moderators. Her clay had gone short. Okay, does everybody know what short means?
So not enough plasticity?
Right. Not enough plasticity. The way I generally describe it is you throw a cylinder and you push out that cylinder and it just cracks. The exterior cracks. Okay? So her clay had lost all of its plasticity. Now, it had previously had it. Now, you guys can go ahead and join Clay Buddies. You know, it's a great group if you're on Facebook. And you get all sorts of responses. There were people out there that were saying, oh, well, it's going to be the fact that your bacteria is gone, or I'm not going to go back and look it up. But there are all these reasons that people had for why this had happened. The fact of the matter is, in the conversation that I had with her, is that what had happened is that she was working at Cone 6. And she was using a commercial clay. And what happens is they use nepheline cyanide. Is everybody familiar or has heard of nepheline cyanide? Nepheline cyanide is commonly used to make bodies flux at Cone 6. The problem is nepheline cyanide is a wonderful material. It is also somewhat water soluble, means it will dissolve by sitting in water. So the longer that clay body sits being plastic, the more that nepheline cyanide is dissolving. One of the primary ingredients in nepheline cyanide is sodium. Okay, and we'll get deep into what sodium, how it's working, all that. The problem is sodium is a deflocculant. So if you've heard of Darvan or sodium silicate or soda ash, they are materials we generally add to make clays flow. Okay, and they work by changing the surface chemistry of the clay particles. Don't worry, all this will come up again, even if you're losing me. Okay, and so her clay, and clay is this stuff. It's these playing cards that stick together. Well, and that's based on the surface chemistry. If you're changing the surface chemistry, they don't stick together anymore. So it now becomes short. Okay, and that's why it's a delayed response, because she had to wait. That clay had to sit around long enough, be reclaimed enough times that it just eventually changed the surface chemistry. And this is the problem with Cone 6, because the clay companies do what is cheap and what is easy. Nepheline cyanide is cheap and it is easy. It is also the wrong thing to do. Okay? Go ahead.
When you say we use it to make clay flow, what do you mean?
If you're making a casting slip, okay? If you're making a casting slip, you've got your liquid clay. but you want to minimize the total amount of water in there, because more water will break down the mold faster. So historically, we add materials called dispersants, and or often called deflocculants. Okay, and they go by the major brand name now is called Darvan, and there's various numbers associated with Darvan. Darvan 7, Darvan 811, 821A, and Darvan C. And what they do is that they make the clay flow without adding water. They change the surface chemistry of the clay particle. Okay, so did I talk about in this lecture about what's actually going on in a clay particle? I don't think I did.
Not quite.
No.
Okay, this will come up extensively, but so a clay particle, take two of my test tiles. Clay particles basically look like little flat things, and one side of them has a positive charge, and the other side of them has a negative charge. Okay, and just like little magnets, the positive is attracted to the negative, and they stick together, and they slide, and that's why we can shape clay, and that's why clay sticks together. Okay, that's what's so cool about clay bodies. The thing is that it's literally a positive and a negative, just like a magnet. Okay, now the way a dispersant works is that it temporarily changes all the positives to negative. So now you've got negatives to negatives, and what happens when you try to force the opposite sides of a magnet together is that it actually repels each other. Okay, so instead of sticking now, they're repelled. Okay, so that's great if you're making a casting slip, because the way a casting slip works is that it's in water, and then you suck out the water, and once the water's gone, the particles are forced together no matter what. Okay, but if you're working in a plastic clay, a throwing clay, a hand-building clay, and your particles are forced against each other, they become rubbery, they become short, they have all sorts of problems all day long. Okay, again, I'm not crazy when I talk about the issues with cone 6. I am actually very, very realistic. It's just, that this is what is happening behind the scenes. It's unfortunately y'all. So y'all are here, y'all are enrolled, so you're stuck with me. You now get to see how the sausage is made. Okay? I'm going to get you really depressed. If I didn't today, I'm going to get you even more depressed. And then I'm going to rise you from the ashes like a phoenix from the kiln. Okay? And provide you with light and options and positivity. It's just, you keep making that frowny face, Kiara. You're bumming me out.
I'm loving it. I'm loving the entire conversation. Great. It feels like my kind of experience. So let's go.
Good.
Matt, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I found John Britt's a couple of his books are what I've read, and I also have seen some of his YouTube videos, and he has a good one on flocculating and deflocculating, and he takes a glaze, but he talks about it in changing basically from an acid to a base. He adds the Epsom salts to, I always get this mixed up, to basically flocculate it. It turns the slip or glaze basically to a gel. And then he goes back and adds Darvan 7, which then turns it back into liquid, and it's really neat to see. But now he's talking about it, now you've just talked about it in terms of polarity, but he talks about it in terms of acid and base. Are we talking the same thing, or?
You are changing, by changing the pH, is one part of what happens to by a dispersion effect.
Okay.
So yes, that is part of what happens. That explanation, I haven't seen that video of his. That is an incomplete explanation of what is actually going on, but that is part of the process. Is that the dispersants do change the pH of the system? But actually, I just sent an article to Ivan Heath, who's a teacher in Pennsylvania. He's another Clay Buddies guy, about where did I put it? About the dissolution of sodium in clay bodies. And the way that you track it is that when the when the sodium enters the system, the pH of the system changes, which then affects the surface chemistry, because the surface chemistry is dictated by the pH of the suspension. But it also has a natural pH at 7, which is the neutral pH, with one side positive and one side negative.
Okay.
So it's both, yes.
Okay.
So does that relate to changing ionic bonds or something? Is that the linchpin of the two things?
It's hold that thought. Hold that thought when we get into how clays are working. Okay, that's one of those we'll get there, because that's a big subject. Right. And we need to get a little bit more background before we get into it. Okay?
Sure.
We'll get there. Go ahead.
Speaking of calculations, one of the things that I've become rusty with, I'd have to go back and reread Rhodes every time I try to do it. I learned to do these calculations by hand, and now we have all this software. Do you, as far as your teaching, are we going back to the old way, or is it just a matter of course to use software to do your calculations?
You're going to have to do it exactly twice by hand.
Okay.
Just because it helps from an educational standpoint to do it and to see where the math comes from. But as you say, everybody has a calculator. Again, this is mine. It's already up on the website. You can go and download it. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I looked at it.
It's free. It's the best thing it's got going for it. And it's free. Did I mention how it's free? Yeah, they sell all the software. I'm not crazy about them, but I'm also always tweaking things. Like, here's an experiment that I'm currently working on. Where is it? Where did I put it? This is a new version of the spreadsheet that I'm currently working on. That oops, lost my screen share. That this one is a new version, because in here you can see that it's got iron and manganese tied into it. And so I have some students that are currently experimenting with utilizing iron, but specifically actually manganese as a flux, and have been doing fantastic research with that. Really great stuff that we'll get into later. So that this is a spreadsheet that I can manipulate and work with and add things and take things away, and all of that. So, and it's free. But that it does come back down to, you are going to have to learn the unity molecular formula, but you will get to the point where you are so comfortable with it, it's just going to be like breathing. You won't even pay attention, because you'll learn the language by the end of the course. It's one of those things, like I said, it's often thrown out there, and it's something like, oh, well, it's just something the Glaze people speak, and you get your first copy of Cushing's book, and he's got all these recipes, and they came out of hyperglaze, or then there's Insight, and I don't know what else is out there. I mean, now there's Glazy, the Glazy does all the UMF calculations for you, and sort of understanding this. But it doesn't really matter if you can't speak the language. And like I said, this is the conversation I was having with Britt the other day, where there's these really antiquated ways of looking at glazes that we need to abandon, or I should say, of looking at unity formulas, because the understanding is very, very clear, as long as you wash away all that, whatever you were taught, what you were taught when you first started clay, that just get rid of it and understand the new way of doing it. Wow, it'll all become clear.
Well, I'm just I mean, I can still do some of those things, and I still can read a formula and all that, but you do something. you learn that stuff, you get where you want to go, and then you don't look at it for a long time because you know you don't need to. You know, when I was doing production, I had my glazes and did
Yep.
what I did, and you know. But then when I wanted to reinvestigate, it's like, well, I go reread roads and struggle my way through these calculations again.
So
and then software came along.
But even, you know, software is amazing, and that's actually part of what I'm working with the guy from Glazy is different ways of representing data so that it's understandable, because I'm not really a software guy and he's very software. But let me show you something. So this is, can everybody see this paper?
Yeah.
So this is what I'm presenting at NCECA this year. And this is not published yet, so, you know, top secret. I literally just sent it off to the publishers. This chart is so incredibly important. Can I move it off to the side and still see? Okay. Because what this chart, and it looks like a boring graph. It looks like it makes absolutely no sense, and don't worry, I don't expect you to follow any of it. But what this, in summary, does is that this chart tells you how durable a glaze is, which means how it survives the dishwasher, which is the most destructive single thing we do. Okay? And what is so impressive about this chart right here is that it tells you that you can know what a glaze will do based purely on looking at the chemistry. You don't have to batch the glaze, you don't have to test the glaze, you just have to look at the chemistry and it will tell you that it's durable, because what happens here is that this yellow line, this yellow line right here, is that this is a glaze at cone 04, okay? And I won't go into all the chemistry now. We'll talk about it later when everyone's more comfortable. But what you need to understand is that this line is 0 degradation. That means the glaze does not fall apart. And that's what happens with a bad glaze. They literally fall apart from regular use. Literally chunks, very microscopic chunks, but chunks fall apart and fall off the glaze. That is one of the big issues with non-high quality glazes. And what this yellow line here documents is that you can utilize the UMF to understand the chemistry of glazes that don't fall apart. Because this silver line, those glazes fall apart. This orange line, those glazes fall apart, no matter what you do with the chemistry. The yellow line, they don't. They actually become better. They become stronger based purely on the chemistry. Okay, so you don't have to worry about anything. And that is purely predictable from just looking at numbers. Just looking at the UMF. You can come to, hello, yes? Matt speaking. Okay, that's okay. And this is one of those crazy sort of things, and this is like, oh well, the scientist, and this isn't really in the studio, and that's not how it works. No. I'm like you guys. I come from the art world. Okay, I understand how we all do things. These are very real applications of very real science, as long as we're willing to accept them. And this again, we'll get into the subtleties of what's actually going on in this chart, but this is one of the most impressive things I've ever made. Because it now gives us a standard to look at glaze durability based purely on chemistry. Yeah, I'm super happy with this.
So
I know, I'm a ceramics nerd.
It is not only a cone 10, cone 6 matter. I mean, you could have a cone 10, 6, 10.
Oh, I lost you right in the heart of your question. Oh, and you froze up too. Oh, Kiara, come back. Come back. Oh, she's totally frozen. It's like something out of a horror movie. She'll come back. Does this sort of... I don't know. I don't know if I'm like showing you guys stuff and you're like, what the hell? He's showing me a stupid graph. Like, that's stupid.
Nothing is stupid.
Say again?
I say nothing is stupid. I wish I will understand it.
You will understand. I know.
Of course, yes.
I'm jumping way ahead, and it's mostly because I just came up with this data, and I'm very, very excited about it. But it's this thing of there's always been this notion in the arts community that chemistry can tell you this and it can tell you that, but it can't tell you this other thing. Right? That's sort of the way that the UMF has always worked. And that glaze chemistry has always worked. And what I have spent my career doing is going, let's figure out the universal translator. Let's figure out the Rosetta Stone. And I am so close, I can taste it. Because I've now gotten to durability, I've gotten to temperature, I've gotten to chemistry, I've gotten to materials, and I've crossed into color. And it's like it's there. Finishing this document here is a major cornerstone to it all being done, and then when I'm done, I can write my book. So, oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost you completely after that.
That's okay. We didn't hear your question, though.
No, my comment was, so it is all about the formulation, kind of. I mean, you could have a 10 glaze that could fall apart, I guess. Too.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
You can have, absolutely, you can have glazes that can fall apart at any temperature.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? But you can have glazes that succeed at every temperature. And from the chemistry, you can know what is going to do what.
Mm-hmm.
Out of focus. And that becomes the really powerful tool, which is why I encourage you to not be despondent about Cone 6 or even Cone 04. Mm-hmm. That the information is there. Like I said, the problem is when you start to look at, like I said, I've got this book. As soon as we get off the call, I'm going to go back to punching in numbers. And I look at these formulas, and I can say, that is not a high-quality glaze, and here is why. And, that this chart actually helps to define why, and a bunch of other information that we've generated. It's somewhat new information. It's something that I and my mentor, Dr. Carty, in the ceramic engineering department have worked on now for coming up on 20 years. But it will change everyone's studio. It will make you confident, and it will make you better because it opens up absolutely new possibilities on what glazes can be. A lot of people feel like, oh, I get into the chemistry and suddenly I've lost the artistic side of it, And it's, to me, that's like that argument of, when I first started getting serious about art in high school, you meet those people that say, oh, well, I'm just not artistic. I just can't do that. And to me, the response is always, no, sure you are. Because art is just a system. It's like any other system. There's this myth of the crazy artist, but we all know we're pragmatic people. We have goals that we're trying to achieve and systems to achieve them. We're not these crazy dreamers. We just have the opportunity to dream. And so it's a system to understand, and it will take you there. And I promise, it'll change your life. No joke. It's very exciting. Like I get super excited about it. It's cool.
Can I just
yeah.
I was thinking through with all of your aims of things you attempt to calculate. Mm-hmm. And the gap where I'm not sure you're getting to is how glazes perform with each other. So over each other wet, over each other what dry. And you can point to that as the area where artistic experimentation and having a feel for things and trying them out is still necessary.
I think that's there too.
Yeah.
Because, the thing about chemistry that's so cool that we're going to have a lot of fun talking about is that chemistry doesn't just magically appear. It's either there or it's not. And, I was just watching a video that sort of defines the terms of a hypothesis versus a theory versus a law in science, and how you can test something and experiment with it, and you cast away bad ideas and you embrace good ideas and then develop them and refine and refine. I think with layering of glazes, you're right. It's not something that people have a good definition about, but the chemistry of it is very clear. If you take glaze A and you take glaze B, and you interact them, you know exactly what's in there. So you can inherently predict the chemistry therein. Now, some people would say, oh, well, you're sucking all the fun out of the new thing that's going to develop here. But to me, it's more of, well, what's that chemistry of the new glaze, and then how can I manipulate that to make something even more awesome? You know? And to me, that's where the excitement is. And it's definable. We just haven't defined it yet. You know? And that's always discovery. I don't want to have everything defined at this point because I'm only 37. Like, I got a lot of testing to do. I got glaze tests to do. I mean, I figure I've done 15,000 glaze tests, so, you know, hopefully I got another, 30, 40, 50,000 glaze tests left in me. We'll see. They're fun like that. I don't have many hobbies anymore, so. My kids, my wife, and my glaze test. Any other questions? I know it's very late for Ruth. Ruth, your stamina is impressive.
Yeah.
Can I ask about clay? You say that we will have to mix our own clay if we want to stick with low fire or mid fire.
Mm-hmm.
You say something about it. Okay, so if I'm not going to do it, I use commercial, Laguna, here, where I live, it's really easy to get. So, yeah, I'm worried. You worried me.
Yeah, I know. I talk a lot of smack. And I know I have it much easier in my life than everyone else does in theirs on what they have available and what they can do. And the catch is, we all, or most of us, get into a car every day or some sort of vehicle every day. And we don't think about the fact that 30,000 Americans die every year in automobile accidents. Okay? We just sort of accept that fact and move on, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get into a car accident. You just hope that you can buy the best car possible. Or maybe a car is a bad metaphor because you'd have to build your own car to make the best car possible. Which, yeah, I'm not doing that. God, I tried to change a headlight today and I completely failed, so. The commercial can be adequate, but you have to look at it critically. And if you are going to go the commercial route, there comes a certain point where you have to accept the faults. It's going back to Clay Buddies. One of the biggest frustrations of Clay Buddies is people coming up and saying, hey, I'm having all these problems, and it's commercial. What do you want me to do about it? I don't know what's in that formula. I literally could tell you nothing. And so it's no better for me to say, and the company will tell you nothing. None of you are in the American South, so Clay, where are you?
I'm in the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia.
Do you use high water?
Some.
Okay.
Standard and high water.
Standard. Well, you didn't hear it from me, but high water is currently having serious issues.
Oh, I've had those serious issues. I fired salt.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a whole half a kiln load of Phoenix just come to pieces.
Yeah.
Literally.
And
the Starworks.
Starworks. Yeah, I'm hearing good things about Starworks, but I don't know them. The thing about high water right now, and I don't mean to slander them. I have not dealt with them personally, but all of these reports I see all over, my friends, just people online, that they are saying that there is something wrong with high water clays right now.
Well, they tried to ignore it, but apparently they're blaming Pacer for changing the mesh size of the custer.
Yeah, that's a fine excuse, but no one else is having that problem that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I know of one other clay company right now that I won't mention that is having problems. I don't have a diagnosis on it, but I'm actually consulting with them to try to come to a solution. But yeah, that high water, what you're saying, everything that I've heard is that they just deny.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the danger. So, you know, if you're going to have problems, like I said, my cone 6 clay thing, making a cone 6 clay that works is very, very easy.
Mm-hmm.
My cone 6 clay is my cone 10 clay, and I take out 3% of my feldspar, and I add in 3% Frit 3124. Works great, fully vitrified, glassy, translucent. Clay company is never, ever, ever, ever going to do that because Frits are expensive.
Okay.
Right.
And they're not interested in expensive. They are interested in selling to for something as much as possible that they can make as cheaply as possible. I mean, and again, I sound like a conspiracy theory nut. I know, yeah, I see the smirks. But, you know, the thing that gets me is, we'll talk more about, you know, one thing that the clay companies have done in making Cone 6 a thing is that they tell you that 3.5% absorption in a clay body is acceptable to call it vitrified. And that's a load of crap.
It's hot in the microwave.
Yeah, it's hot in the microwave. It absorbs water. It explodes. It cracks. It expands. It crazes. I have... Hold on. Let me show you a picture.
Oh, my.
Do people need to go to... I know. I'm talking. I'm ranting. I'm talking. Okay. So here is... Let me go to the screen share. Where is it shared? I think I'm just on the screen share. Can you guys see 3 little numbers? Is that a yes?
No.
No. Where's my screen share coming up?
Folders.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't want to show you my folders. You're looking at my secret folders. Don't need my iTunes. Let me see if I can copy this and then paste it in. Can you guys see the chat if I post this into the chat? It's not going to let me paste it into the chat. Oh, here are the numbers on the screen share.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so these numbers on the screen share. This is a commercial Cone 6 body that I was asked to test. Okay, you can see my son's school pictures. So right up here, okay, this is Cone 5. Oop. Are you not seeing it? Oh, present to everyone. There we go. Can you see it now? Right here.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are absorption numbers from a commercial Cone 6 clay. Okay, and all I did was I took this clay and I fired it at 3 different cone temperatures. So I fired it at Cone 5, I fired it at its ideal temperature of Cone 6, and I fired it at Cone 7. And here's what I got. At Cone 5, I got absorption of 6%. Okay, at Cone 6, I got absorption of 2.95%, and at Cone 7, I got absorption of 0.72%. Okay, this is a major problem. Because what this means is that if there's a little bit of inconsistency in your kiln, you're going to get a different absorption rate, which means a different density, which means different thermal expansion, different glaze fit, different glaze problems. And you don't even need to have a whole cone off. This can be cold in the kiln back to front, cold in the kiln top to bottom. All of these issues are very, very real. And this happens because this company says that 3% absorption is okay for Cone 6. And I'm sorry, but by my standards, it's not. The actual standard for absorption on a vitrified clay is 0.05% or lower, which means that no water is getting in there. It means hot in the microwave. It means, you know, that your glaze fit is consistent. All of these things. And this is why I get so grumpy about Cone 6, because you know, it makes me nuts to sort of know that this is what's happening because the clay companies have decided to redefine what vitrified means. And why I get angry is because my job is to help people. My job is you guys come in and say, I want to learn, but most of the time I'm dealing with people that are coming in saying, I'm having a problem. How do I fix this problem? And for years I would look at problems and say, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. And then I realized that what was actually happening is that there were so many problems because the baseline of knowledge was skewed. And that's why I get grumpy about Cone 6. Not that it can't be done right. Like I said, I have a Cone 6 body. I've got Cone 6 glazes. They're amazing. They're wonderful. They're food safe. They're rugged. But that is not in the interest of the clay companies. And it might piss them off. I know the people that run most of the clay companies. I don't care if I piss them off. You know? If they want to come to me for knowledge, I'm more than willing to share it with them. But, you know, that's just it. So have no fear. You guys have made the first step. You have come here, and I will show you. I will bring peace to you and prosperity. I will be your lucky cats waving at you. Anyway, are there more questions? Have I ranted enough for tonight? My wife's probably in the other room rolling her eyes at me. She's a ceramics technical person too, so she doesn't need to hear it. She knows.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. So, yeah, there'll be videos Friday, Monday, and then and Wednesday. And so we'll meet here again next Wednesday. Is everybody comfortable with the online interface, with the message board, the videos?
Yes.
It's all good? It's all working for everybody? Okay. Cool. Ruth, have you had any problems with streaming, being overseas? Everything's playing just fine?
Just a few where it goes blocky, and there was one just a couple of times it'll stop. So maybe I'll restart it and take it back to where it was, or a few seconds later, and then it starts up. But I mean, considering I'm sure somebody else in this house is using broadband at the same time as me, and I actually have it playing on a really big TV, that's not a big problem.
Cool. Ooh, watching me on TV, that's a little scary, but I'm okay with that. It's okay. I have a projector, so my TV is a 12-foot image, and I have a computer hooked up to it, so...
Yeah, you'd be a bit big on that. I'm not going there.
And I'm a big guy, so I'd be super big, so... okay, well, so yeah, nothing special. So tomorrow... Well, no, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Friday, we will start getting into chemistry and geology. So the one thing I will say, just as a caveat, the first 6 classes are going to be a little bit dry. I make them as entertaining as possible because, you know, I'm entertaining. Come lecture 6 or 7, your minds are going to start melting. So get through the dry stuff, and then, you know, you'll make it to the promised land. I promise.
Sounds good.
Okay. There's a viewer. There's somebody in the viewing. Does that person have a question? I don't know who you are. I can't tell who you are in the viewers. It just tells me there's a viewer. No questions? Nothing? Bueller? No. Okay. Oh, the viewer left. Oh, identify them, and they ran away. No. All right. So I'm sure you guys don't need to watch this again, but as soon as this transcodes, I'll post it up to YouTube so you can relive the excitement. And if not, I will see you guys on the message boards or see you next week.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.